Hello friends, how are you? This is Mig Jimenez and I want to say hello to all Belgian Scale Modelers Convention friends you know that this year was not possible to do the event physically because the problem of that everybody know it, of course, but unfortunately I was not able to go for the same reason, and many of you must stay at home, but the people from the club invite me to do a special video for all of you. I want to share many things, many techniques today. So try to imagine that you are with me in one of those places that they usually prepare for us, making the paint demonstration. I really like to do that, and it's a pity that today was not possible to do it. But my hair is in Belgium right now with all my friends, drinking some beers like always. So my sincerely regards for all of you, but I hope we can meet each other the next year, because remember that the next year will be 12th of December 2021. 12th of December will be the next event in the next year, obviously. Also, I want to say hello to Domino and Struntigen Modelbau, that are two of my friends, two shops that every year attend the event. And this year also will be not possible for them to stay there, but my best regards for them too. But also I want to make a mention to Passion 132, Art Concept Creation, Expression Hobby, and Ul Gaming and Multimedia, that I would like to see them in the next year in the event, because the modelers really need to buy stuff, and we like the shops. We like to make shopping when the model show is running and we are waiting for the ceremonies or other thing. We like to buy things. So I hope the next year the guys from the organization can prepare a beautiful and unforgettable event. And this time is online, but nothing happened. Fortunately, we have the technology. I have improved my setup, my cameras and everything to make a nice paint demonstration that probably you will like it. I hope so. I hope so. And today I prepared something interesting for you that I think that is very classic, but at the same time everybody needs sometimes, no? When you are making a diorama or if you like to make just a simple tank in a special condition, that is to make something rusty and abandoned. So I prepared a nice turret of a T34 85, that is one of my favorite subjects, and I will explain you how to paint this turret from the beginning to the end. So don't miss it, because I will explain you not only the classic technique but also a new ones using, for example, the shaders, the oil brushes, and also acrylics, the eyebrush, and many techniques. It's a simple subject, but I think that enough interesting for many of you. Not only for people who make tanks, but also for people who make abandoned cars or trucks or excavators, anything. So if you want to enjoy today with the Belgian friends and also from the neighbors around Belgium, please stay here and enjoy with us this nice video. Bye bye. To paint rusty tanks was always one of my favorite subjects. I really love rusty tanks and all kind of rusty subjects. But also I want to explain you how to paint a rusty turret in this occasion, because can be useful for many purposes. Not only like a subject itself, because only just to paint a turret or abandoned turret, rusty turret, or any rusty tank, or even any kind of vehicle, a car, a civil car, or a truck, can be enough interesting for all kind of people. But if you are one of those who like to make dioramas or modern tanks or operative tanks, tanks in action, not destroyer or rusty, also could be interesting, because you can add a turret from another tank like a complement or accessory for your diorama or your vignette. So today I will explain you how to paint a rusty T-34-85 turret. And why this subject? Because I think that is one of the most popular around the world. You can find the T-34 turret or the T-34 tank not only in the Second World War, but also in all conflicts from Vietnam, all conflicts in Africa, Middle East, in every places, Afghanistan, for example. So I think that could be really interesting to use this subject to explain you an easy and fast method to make rusty subject. Don't forget that you can apply those techniques that you will see now, not only in a tank, but also in any kind of vehicle or object or any kind of accessory for your dioramas. So, for example, this is one of the most beautiful reasons why you can use a T-34. This is one probably in Afghanistan, but you can see the beautiful effects without wheels, without suspension, but surrounded of this water. This is an incredible idea for any vignette or diorama in Afghanistan. Not only also because the letters, the Arabic letters in the size of the hull. More from Afghanistan, as you can see, there are remains of green color around the turret in some areas, but the rusty colors are dominating all parts in our tank. Another one, maybe this one is from Serbia, from the Serbia conflict. You can see one more time remains of the green color, very faded green color, by the way, and you must remember this point because I will explain you how to do it. But also a lot of chipping with different colors, sometimes even colors that you doesn't imagine where they are coming. This one is like very policed or touched by the people or the kids, no? But also it's interesting because the main color that looks a very dark brown, red brown. Another one in a coastal defense that also could be a fountain of inspiration for many of you. Another example, surrounded of vegetation, that is really interesting. Another one from the coast. This photo with a lot of detail is great because you can see many chipping around the turret. Even if all turret is very monochromatic, I want to explain you how to create richness and how to create contrast between the different elements and all accessories of the turret, just to avoid monotony, just to avoid simplicity, no? That sometimes is a bit boring. Another example in Afghanistan, this one more darker, but also is because maybe the light of the sun. But you can see the huge variety of colors that you can interpret. Be careful with this one because this is not a rusty, well, it's rusty, but it's close to be a kind of burned out, recently burned out tank. This can be an example, like for example this turret that I painted a long time ago in Sweden for another model contest. That is a turret with remains of smoke because the fire, but also you can see the original color of the turret. So don't make a mistake mixing the concepts because this is a burn out turret, like this example of T-34. I think it's also in the Balkans. You can see the smokes effects, even the green color in the gun barrel and the frontal hull plates. This is another concept of a rusty tank because it's more or less new, maybe repainted, but because the rain and the external conditions, it is getting rust very fast and beautiful, and orange rust originally coming from the rain and the water. Well, this is a kind of fiction picture, it's like retouched in Photoshop, but also it's a good inspiration, especially you can see the rear plate of the exhaust pipes, you can see many effects, contrast, different colors, even a kind of violet, green, orange and some color, which make this example very attractive. More examples from the Balkans. Observe one more time because I will do it, the remains of the green color. Another one, you can see what happened here. The tank was burned out because you can see there are no rubber in the wheels, but the turret remain in green color. That is a very strange. Probably the turret was turning around after it was on fire. But if you do that in a model, can catch the attention very easily from the spectator, because it's a very nice contrast, no? To see the green color with the rusty part of the tank. This tank is totally rusty, looks like abandoned. One more time, this is another concept, another burnt-out tank, but very old, and this is why it looks very rusty. Another one from Afghanistan. This is one of my favorite subjects, because you can place any modern American tank or European tank next to one of those. So it's still very attractive subject, the T-34-85. Of course, there are many versions, but maybe you can take an old turret from Tamiya or Sveda or any other, and you can do something like that. This is beautiful. You can see many layers of green, rust color under the turret. Look, this roof hatch completely rusty, while other parts of the tank looks with the original color. So it's fantastic, like an example of an abandoned tank or maybe under restoration. The T-34, just talking about something different, allow you to do many crazy things like those from the Balkans. Also from recently Arab wars in Yemen, in another wars in Africa, where you can paint different camouflage, also very rust. Look, the external fuel drum that is completely rusty, also the engine grill very damaged. So it's a perfect subject to do everything you want. Another crazy example from Yugoslavia, another one that is very interesting with the rubber protections. And this one is very interesting because I want to show you the dust underneath of the turret. You can appreciate a amount of dust, but also in the fenders, in the side fenders, you can see the dust, accumulated dust also in the RAF turret. And this is another important aspect that I will explain you today, because the dust can be a nice addition for your painting. Different parts, for example, this is the protection plate of the mantlet in the turret, and you can see not only rust but also humid water accumulated in that plate, which is very interesting, where the rust appear more bright and orange. Finally, a rusty subject allow us to create very faded or damaged or chipped numbers and symbols, like in this police example. Which I think that is very interesting when you are making a abandoned or rusty tank. Also, one more time, I appreciate the first layer of dark green and the last layer of light green that probably was faded by the light. This is why it's lighter. So the first lesson that you will learn today is that the green or the colors that appear in a rusty tank always looks more faded and light than usually. So keep on mind. And finally, this is already primed under restoration T-34-85 with a red primer. And I must warn you about one thing. As far as I know, probably I am wrong, but as far as I know and the things that I have read about the Russian in the Second World War, the Russian doesn't apply a red primer in their tanks, but they applied a kind of protective green to the metal, directly a kind of green. So they used a green like a primer, not a red primer like the Germans in the middle or in the end of the war, or also the Americans or in another armies actually in Europe. So this is something that the people who are restoring this tank are doing just to protect the metal. But in the Second World War, Russian doesn't use the red primer like Germans. So don't make that mistake, okay? But anyway, I used that like inspiration, and I painted my turret also in red primer. Why? Because it's a good base. It's a good base for to make a rusty subject. So this is why I choose the red primer. That in fact I used this one from Titans. It's a rust base matte primer, which is a very nice color. okay, and the result is excellent and fast. Why I use the spray and not the one shot? The first reason is because it's really fast. I take the spray, I apply the primer, and the looks is excellent and perfect, that you can appreciate. It's a little satin and it's a very strong paint that protect very well your model. I recommend you, for example, when you are making radio control tanks in 1/16 scale or even bigger, I recommend you the Titan's primers, because it's a very good primer for that purpose. But the one shot could be useful for smaller models, for smaller scales or very complex parts. Could be interesting to use this one with your eyebrush. Anyway, I used this one because it's comfortable for me and fast. So I have my turret already primer, and now it's time to start with the process. Very fast, and before I start painting, let me show you some of the paints that I will use. For example, you can use some sets that are available in the market. Of course, I have the mines from AMO. There are a super pack with many products to make rust. For example, the basic colors, streaking rust, a couple of oil colors, oil brushes, pigments and washes, which is very interesting. Those kind of super packs boxes are very useful. Also a classic box with the necessary colors for rust, the ones that I use more. And there are others like this one that is mainly for pigments. Anyway, I have here my colors that I will use already prepared. The new things that I want to explain you today is how to use the new deodorized brass paints that I will use for the rust. Like you can appreciate here, I took a couple of colors. I will show you how to use them. But also another interesting new is that I will use the shaders, different colors, to create effects very fast on the surface of my model. So for all of those reasons, I think that will be very interesting to pay attention to the video from today. What more? About how I mix the acrylic paints when I use my paints for the eyebrush. Sometimes I mix or I dilute with different thinners, but in this occasion, in this time, I will use the transparator. The transparator is a product that make your paint more subtle, more transparent, that allow you to make more layers. And until now, we offer only the glossy one, and now we have the matte one. So, very important thing that you must keep in your mind when you are painting rusty tank is always matte look in your rusty tanks. Always matte, not satin, not glossy. That is very important to give a sensation of rust in your model. Also, I have here the matte varnish in case that something becomes glossy because any wash or something similar. I will use the matte varnish. And another necessary product that you must use when you are making any rusty subject is the scratches effect or the heavy chipping effect. Both of them can be useful. I will use this one to create chipping effects faster, but also another method that I will explain you. So, okay, let me protect my table a bit with a paper. Maybe we can start painting very fast. I already prepared my airbrush with the right color, just to save time. So I can start painting directly if I turn on my compressor, which is the most important. So first I start with a dark color. I think that I used this one, the All Rust. And I don't need to cover the whole turret. I can paint some parts of my model. Remember to apply the acrylic paints in a different way than the lacquer paints or enamels. The acrylic paint must be applied in soft layers and you must avoid to accumulate too much. Apply a soft layer and let dry a bit. You can use the same height of the airbrush to allow to dry, to help to dry, but especially don't accumulate too much in your model. One more time, it's not necessary to paint the whole turret because we will combine it with different colors. Okay. If you remember the photos that I showed you before, do you remember probably some of the T-34 photos from Afghanistan that the base color was very dark? Okay, so this color will represent that very dark color. Okay, more than enough. So now we can change the color very fast, and let me explain you how I change the color in my airbrush very fast. That probably will be useful for many beginners modelers. No? Probably the expert or veteran doesn't need this explanation, but let me explain you how I do it. What I do is just to drop the rest of the paint in an old bottle, okay? Then I take a bit of cleaner and I will drop a bit of cleaner inside the airbrush. And now, with a brush, I will clean the inside the cup. Finally, we drop a bit more of cleaner, and only with this process is more than enough to change between one color and the other. Enough, especially when we need to change from one color to other many times while we are painting our model. Okay. We can use also one recipe like this one, where we can remove the excess of thinner or cleaner inside this recipe without contaminate our atmosphere in our home. One important advice: when you are using the sprays, I recommend you to do outside home, not inside, in your garden or in your balcony, because it's not healthy to use inside your home. With the acrylic it's not a problem, but with the Titan's sprays, I recommend you to do that outside. So now we have the first color. Let me take the transparator, like I told you, and the way how I do it is just a bit of transparator. I use this like a kind of thinner for the colors. And now we can take a different color, for example, the medium rust. If you mix outside of the cap of your airbrush, it's much better, of course, but I do in that way because I like to work fast and I don't want to lose my time. Okay, more than enough. And the transparator will help me to keep the surface very matte, which is very important, like I told you. Okay, now is when we start playing with the colors, and even we can use a kind of template to protect some parts of different components of the model. I cannot find here anything. Well, I will use the instructions from the rust set. So you can use a kind of template to help you, or even better, that I was not able to find it, tape, classic tape, that we can use to protect some parts in your model. and create different effects. For example, I want to make lighter this part. You don't need to be very accurate, but this is more than enough to create different shades. Another part. We must start creating contrast between the different elements of a turret. This is very, very important. For example, the two hats, the two part size of the hats, I can cover one and paint only one lighter to create more volume and contrast. Okay. Also, this the loader hats can be painted also in this color. Not too much, just some areas, and try to be random. Don't overdo it and be conservative. Don't repeat the same shades or the same effects in both sides. Paint a bit the gun mantlet. And with this will be more than enough. Okay, this can be the first step in the process of the rust color. We can use another different shade, another different color. I will use this one, but now it's time to clean it, and I repeat the same process done before. First, remove the excess of color, a bit of cleaner using this pipette. Use the brush to clean inside the cup, and drop again in an old bottle. Even because this color will be similar to the next one, I don't need even to clean more. I can drop again the transpirator and the next color. Okay. Three or four colors will be more than enough to make the first steps in the rust. This is more reddish, that you can appreciate. It's more red than the previous one. And we can use this one around the different components, for example, around the cupola, around some elements, just to create deep. To work with a rusty vehicle means to work using different layers of effects. So it's a kind of accumulation of layers of different effects that will give the sensation of a very rusty vehicle. But you must be patient until the end. Now you understand why I used the Titan Red Primer, because everything will be rusty. Even if now we will make the green reminds of the camouflage of the tank, but it's better if we use like a primer a similar color to the final purpose. Okay. Well, we have the turret, and now it's ready for more steps. Like I made before, let's go to clean it. You can see how fast I changed from one color to the other and nothing happened. Some people spend too much time cleaning the airbrush between one color and the other, and this is very tedious and you spend a lot of time, so it's better if you follow my advice in case that you want to save your precious time. Well, I forgot to show you one thing. You can find also those templates from Ushi, from Alex, from Germany, and it's very interesting to create effects of different textures. I am using this one, for example, in a submarine, in the size of the submarine from Das Werk. But also you can use in the size of your turret in case that you want to create different effects. You can use a different color, place the template. There are different size of grains and chipping, so you can create different effects along the surface of your model. In that case, I don't need it just because I want to go faster, but it's another idea that I am giving to you. So, what is next? The next process, and this is why I need to clean very well the airbrush, is to apply the chipping fluid that will allow us to make very nice chipping effects, which is very, very important. So, now that it's clean, well, more or less, I doesn't spend too much time cleaning because this is a scratches effects product that is totally transparent. And let's go to apply in our model. Don't overflow the surface, okay? Because that can be not good if you overflow the surface with too many drops of this liquid. So let dry enough before you apply another coat. You can see that it dries very fast. And don't forget to cover very well all areas. The chipping fluid will help us to create a very realistic chipping. This can be used also for different camouflage, for example, winter camouflage, or even in a standard camouflage. Here I think that I have one example that maybe I can show you. It was for another example, another paint demonstration that I made in Poland, or I cannot remember where, a long time ago, and was something similar. No? You can see the chipping fluid with the green color is what I will do now. Okay, in every places. Also, you can appreciate more or less the contrast from the different components here. It's something that I want to insist and to tell you continually, because that is very important when we are making a rusty vehicle. But the chipping fluid is very, very important if we want to create all of those kind of effects that are very realistic and easy, by the way. So let me finish covering the completely area of the turret, even giving a second layer. I use the air from the airbrush to dry faster. Now I am just projecting air over the surface to help me to dry faster, but don't use high dryer. Don't use it, because the high dryer can modify too much the properties of the chipping fluid. Remember that as soon as you apply the chipping fluid, you must start working fast, because as much time you let the chipping drying over the surface, less effect or less will work after. Remember that we are making a abandoned rusty turret and not a burned out turret. But drying very fast, and while I continue drying, or I will let drying, I will go for the green color. Just remove the excess of chipping, a bit of cleaner. Use the brush to clean inside the cup. And that's all. Okay. I always use something like that to keep cleaning the airbrush while I am painting. And now we will use two colors. Let me show you. I will use this green color that is already light green color, and this Dunkelgelb, a kind of sand color that I will use to make even lighter this green color. This will help me to create that effect of faded green over the rusty parts of the tank. That is very important. Remember what I told you. It's totally necessary to make lighter and faded the base color of your tank. Doesn't matter if it's gray, green, sand, or any other kind of color for camouflage. If you make it rust, the base color of your tank must be much lighter because the fading and the discoloration from the sun. Now the green. Okay. With the green color, now we will try to paint around the details of the hatch or the cupola or mantlet. In fact, we can use the same mask than before, but in the opposite side, to paint the green color in the mantlet. So the gun barrel. See, note that I am not covering the whole surface of the tank. You can do it, of course, but I recommend you just to paint just a little because we want a very rusty turret. So to avoid too much green aspect of your turret, try to paint just the minimum. Of course, you can do it in a different way. You can add more green color and less rust, so this is up to you depending and according your idea and your reference. As you can see, I use always many photos from internet or from different books like reference for my painting. Note this, that I am painting more green here, but I don't want to repeat right in the opposite side. So I will let this area without green color, and maybe I can paint here, maybe in the center, just to make unregular. Remember to surprise the spectator when the viewer, when the person who wants to see your model discovers something different in both sides of your model. It's more exciting that when he finds something similar to the opposite side. So what I recommend you is try to catch the attention by changing, by doing very random effects in both sides of your model. Okay. Well, this is the aspect of the turret right now, and now is when the magic is coming with the chipping fluid and the next steps that we will make in our model. Okay, so let me clean the table. I will change the paper, and I will continue with the process. Okay, so we have a new paper, so you can see more clearly what we are doing. And now it's time to remove the green color with water and using a brush and a toothpick. Of course, water, that I have here a glass. And I like to use a metallic toothpick to make scratches. And finally, I will use a very old brush that sometimes also used for dry brush technique, but I will use also to remove the paint in the surface. So, also I recommend you to place it over a tissue paper, to absorb the excess of water, because we will work with a lot of water. And let's start. Just humidify the surface. Don't overflow too much, but also don't be shy. Also, you can use a spray, or the same brush is good enough. In the beginning, don't rough too much the surface, just humidify. Don't make too much pressure on the surface. Even in some areas, you already can see how the paint is getting damaged. Let me make a bit of zoom so you can see much better. And the toothpick could be very useful to make scratches. That we will make bigger later with the brush. You can see how the scratches appear easily, especially on the areas where you use the toothpick. So it can be a good way to control the chipping areas. By making more friction with brush, we will obtain bigger areas of chipping. You can draw also small dots, not only scratches and long lines, but also small dots. And again, enlarge with the brush. Okay, this is the way. So let's do it all around the model. Also in the roof. Okay, this is more or less done. As you can appreciate, it's very fast and simple. In case that you commit any mistake or something you don't like too much, you can remove more and repeat the process as much as you want. You can do it many times with different layers, even using different colors. Could be interesting, but the most important is that we can leave some areas like this one, that where the green color is more evident, more clear, visible, and other areas with more faded green, like in this one, Of course, now it's very fresh and everything looks glossy because of water, but you can see that more or less we obtain a nice effect, combining the green with the rust colors. Now it's time to let dry and we can start doing another effects. The next step and easy step also could be to use the sponge to create chipping. And after the chipping with the sponge, we can use the shaders to create some volume in our model in a very fast way. The sponge that I am talking about is this one. This is I take this one from the electronic devices, electronic component. When you buy a hardware for your computer or something similar, you can obtain those sponge. I prepare one like this. I remove little pieces, little parts of the sponge to create this irregular surface. So with this we can create a nice chipping in our model. We can use different colors one more time. Even the same ones that we use it for the base color, we can use also for the chipping with the sponge. But I recommend you to use all color right now, especially for the lighter areas like this. For this area, I will make the chipping with this color. So this is the next step right now. Okay, so here we can put a few drops of the old rust. Why not? Maybe we can put also a few drops of chipping color. So we will obtain two different colors, and maybe also the original sand color that I used for the green camo. Now we can work with the sponge. Okay, so we will handle the sponge in this way, and we will damp with the color like this, and which is really important now. We will remove the excess of color over the paper. Let me show you in the other view here. Okay, and when you see that the sponge is not making nothing except small dots, it's time to go inside the turret. Very slowly and not in every places. Okay, can you see the dots? Don't do it in every places, just in some areas to make softer the green camo. Okay, this is one color, also the gun. Okay, so now we can jump to the other color. Let me show you the dark chipping color. And finally, we can use the sand color to make the last chipping. Even if it's better if it is mixed with the previous color a bit. Okay, so this is the step before work with the shaders. Now it's time to return to the airbrush and use the shaders. I have here a small selection of colors. Let me show you. Like the orange, grime, dirt, light rust, even red candy red, and a hair color. We can combine all of them, or we can use only a few of them if you want, depending what you want to do. But let's experiment and see what happens with some of those colors. I think that it's a good addition when you are working these kind of subjects. So let's go with them. Okay, let me use a new paper, and now we can start painting. I will start by using the deer color, okay, and the Reaper will be a more appropriate airbrush for this kind of paint. Remember that this is water-based, but it's not acrylic. It is a completely transparent and very subtle product that can be used to make shadows and discoloration and many other things. And remember that only you can add color, but you cannot use white, so you cannot make lighter your model. So if you are using the shaders, try that or paint your models lighter that you expect in the end. So now I will use the deep color for make a kind of shadows. You can drop directly in your airbrush. Just few drops will be more than enough to work with it, because it covers a lot. So let's go. Try to work with low pressure and always over matte surfaces. Don't try to cover like a normal paint, because this doesn't cover. It's just to make effects of shadows. In fact, for example, we can use again the trick of the tape to make some kind of shadows in the different components and panels. Like this, and also you will appreciate more. Observe how thin is the color and the very fine lines that you can do with this. And never clog the airbrush. This is perfect for people who paint planes. Can you observe the difference? It's a very subtle shadow. And also to generate or to create different volumes. This tablet is so simple, but in case that we have something with more element, more volume, more components, can be really interesting. And now I will use the light rust. My airbrush is almost clean, so now you can put the brush. Remember that you don't need to shake it. This product doesn't need to be shaken. And now let's see what happened with this color. That is a very nice rust color. And now, can you see the difference? Okay. We can use again the tape, but in a different place than before. And remember what I told you also about to make different things from one side to the other, just creating contrast and random effects. Now I am making vertical lines of rust. Sometimes looks like you are not painting, but it's not true. You paint. The problem is that it's very subtle, and over some places it's difficult to see it. I'm not sure if you can appreciate in the camera, because it's very subtle and soft. But trust me that the final look will be amazing, and with a very little effort. So little by little we are improving the aspect of the turret. We are making more interesting with each layer of color that we are applying. I will apply now red candy and another colors, and to see the final look, to go to the next step. Okay, so this is the last color that I will use. I used also a bit of red color around the cupola, and now it's time to apply a coat of matte varnish to allow us to apply later the final step, that will be the washes and the pigments and also the dry brush. So we need the matte varnish to protect everything now, and we can continue working with the washes and the other products. You don't need to dilute the matte varnish. You can use directly from the bottle. In that case, I will use again the Air Cobra, because it's a bigger needle, so I can go faster. And when you apply the varnish, try to apply a very soft coat. Some people have problems with the lacquer varnish because they doesn't know how to use it. But the best way is to apply very soft coats. In case of the matte, only with a soft coat will be enough to protect everything and to give a completely matte look to your model. The same for the glossy and for the satin. Now I am drying. Another coat. And about the ultra matte, that is another product that the people is a bit confused about it. The ultra matte varnish is not to apply with the airbrush, it's to mix with the paints for figures mainly. So if you have a paint that is almost satin or not too matte enough, you can mix it with the ultra matte varnish. With this soft coat will be more than enough to start working with the washes, protect the shaders, and to give to our model a very nice matte appearance. So let dry, and we will start with the washes. So we have the turret with the shaders, and now it's ready for the next steps, that will be of course the washes. Like you can see, the turret already have a nice look. Even right now many people can think that is done, but it's only half of the steps, and we will see how to improve it a lot. For the washes, I recommend you a couple. That is the light rust wash for some details. Okay, that is a very orange color, and my favorite, that is the track wash. That is a very dark color and fit very well for rusty subject. Of course, to remind you that you must use enamel odorless thinner for the washes. That must be a soft odorless thinner to avoid the bad smell, and also that the other thinners can attack the surface of our model. So we need a brush, fine brush, that we can use to apply the washes. Let me find one. I have many, and I have so many that now I don't know which one to choose. But it's not necessary too big brush or not too thin. I like this one that is 3 zeros, and it's a long hair. This is for panels, to make panel lines. But we can use also to apply the truck wash. So shake it very well before use it. Mine is very old color because I use a lot, and we can start applying our washes. We can use also the thinner in case that the wash is too thick. We can combine the thinner with the washes and just let expand by capillarity. Also around the periscopes and all the details in our model. The wash will help us to create more volume and contrast. You don't need to be too much accurate when you apply the washes, because after we let dry a bit, we will blend it and the look will be very nice. I don't recommend you to overflow all the surface, but just try to go through the lines, panels, joints, rivets. And let dry. That is very important. Let dry a few minutes and then you can blend it with the odorless thinner. Anyway, I think that this is a technique that maybe most of you know it, so I don't want to spend too much time explaining this. I think that all of you know how to do it. In case that this happens, just use a tissue paper and remove the excess, so it's not a big deal. Sometimes happen, especially when you are working very fast, like me right now. Of course, you can invest much more time in if you want a very detailed and well-worked rusty tank, but in case that you just want to have fun a bit, or like an accessory for a diorama or vignette, all of those techniques that I am explaining you today is more than enough to achieve something nice. So I don't recommend you to spend more time. In fact, the real time that we are using for painting that turret in that way is no more than 2 hours or 1 hour and a half. One completely tank maybe cost with wheels, tracks and everything, maybe 1 day of work, a completely day of work, or to work it during 1 week with few time each day, letting dry between a step and a step, especially the process with the chipping and the chipping and the shaders. Okay. Well, now it's time to let it dry, blend it, and maybe apply some small touches of the light rust wash in some areas of our model. We can leave dry off the washes during 24 hours. For example, if you apply them in the night, the next day will be ready for the next steps. And the next step is in fact the dry brush. The new Dio dry brush paints are perfect to make some effects in our turret. I will use those two colors, a lighter one and a bit more darker. Always I recommend you to start with the darker color. The color came in the jar very thick, like you can appreciate. It's not like a standard acrylic paint. It is water-based, but it is ready to be used directly over your model. I like to use a rounded brush, but an old one, not a new one, because it's not necessarily a new one. You can save the new ones for other purposes. So take an old brush to make the dry brush, and we will need a tissue paper like this one. So, well, here you can see that the washes are already dry, and here we will start removing the excess of the paint of the dry brush. Okay, like you can appreciate right now. And when you see that the brush is almost not painting, is when you can enter in your model and start making the dry brush to enhance some details. For example, those rivets, the edges also in this cupola. Everybody knows this classic technique, of course. Is one of the older ones, but still very useful, not only when you are making dioramas where it's perfect for the grounds, walls in buildings and many other things, no? But also in some vehicles sometimes to to make more clear some details. Don't use in excess, of course, when you are making models or tanks, but you can use a little, like you can see here. So the periscopes, we can give a bit highlights. And for the panels, we can use again the trick of the mask. For example, here. So we can apply dry brush in that area. I am removing the steps of paint one more time. And here I can make highlights in this panel, and now we will see the contrast. Don't do it in every places. Observe that I am not doing here, just in the middle to make more contrast. And now, when we remove the mask, we will appreciate the effect. Also, we can make in this frontal part of the mantelet, in this kind of plate for protection of the mantelet. Just a little will make more clean the details, the rivets, or this line. Just a little, don't overdo it. Okay, with small touches we will achieve a nice effect, and especially trying to create contrast from different areas. Each time that you take paint, you must repeat the same process. Clean the brush on a piece of paper and start rubbing the surface very soft in the beginning. Just a little. For example, on those lines, well lines, typical from the T34. Also, we can create more texture. If your turret have texture enough, we can enhance and make more evident that texture, like I am doing right now. Okay. This turret hatch will be also perfect. And remember, start with the darker color, and the lighter ones must be the last one. And don't overdo it. That is my recommendation. If you want to keep a balance, because always the most important is to keep a balance with all techniques that we are using in our models, and that balance will make more realistic what you are doing. Also, it's important that when someone sees your model, that person doesn't need to see the techniques that you use to achieve that result. So if everything is balanced and well done, nobody will see, hey, you used a dry brush here or you used the wash here. If someone tells you that, it's because you made it wrong, or you overdo it too much. Well, finally, maybe we can apply here a little more for those details of the mantelet in the other side. And this is more than enough. Okay. If we wish to make more contrast, we should use a lighter tone like this one, just to show you that it's a little more light. Even I don't change the color in the brush because the color is gone, so I can use the same brush without cleaning it and continue painting with the same shades of tones or colors. So this can be useful for an last highlights in our model to create more contrast. That I am using just for the most volumetric details. Oops, a little mistake. Just take water and clean it. Okay, sometimes this happens. So don't be nervous if this happens, just clean it very fast with a clean brush and that's all. Looks very subtle, but this is more than enough. You don't need to do too much, because only with that effect you will achieve a nice contrast, especially I like the roof of the turret. So let's continue doing more things. In case that you want to clean your brush, it's just with water, like any other acrylic, but you will find it very, very, very different to any other acrylics that are used for normal painting or for airbrush. Usually the paints for airbrush are very thin or too much diluted and are not appropriate for this. But in that case, this paint will be very appropriate for the dry brush, especially for people who need to do many things like in dioramas or big starships or any other subjects. Okay, one more. We are close to finish, but now I would like to paint some numbers. In that case, I will use the washable white camo color. That remember that this color is exactly the same mixture than the Russian made during the Second World War to paint the winter camouflage, and it will fade in the same way than the real color during the war. So that is not exactly acrylic paint, but have a special composition based in the Russian formula. I will use more good brush used for painting figures, because I need more control. The yellow ones are more useful for all kind of weathering techniques, but when I paint figures or small details, I prefer to use premium brushes like this one. So let's go to paint the numbers in the turret. And in case that those numbers are too clear or too evident, we will be able to fade the numbers using water and another brush. But I will make remains of numbers only. I don't know which one, but any. For example, my favorite number. Of course, I haven't a good documentation right now, because this is just like an example. Don't try to paint it very well, just a bit randomly, a bit irregular, because we will make all like all numbers. Like unfinished numbers. Especially that part is nice because I am painting over the green color, over the remains of the faded green. Very irregular, and this 5 will be almost without color. In fact, I am painting almost without paint, but I am achieving the effect that I really wanted, like you saw in the photo that I showed you in the beginning of this video. In the other side, maybe I can paint only the last number, like here. And maybe a little of the others, because this is supposed to be more rusted and this will be more than enough, and I like the effect. Okay, so this is another step. In case that we want to make more faded, remember that you can remove part of the white with water and a clean brush. So what more we can do? Obviously, one of my favorite things and one of the last before I apply the dust could be to use the oil brushers. I think that many of you know the oil brushers already. Those become very popular because are easy to use, so maybe we can use here to make some effects. For example, I like to use the dark brown to make some shadows and contrast in some areas, and the good thing is that I don't need to use a new brush, but using the same cap of the oil brusher, I can paint directly over my model. So, for example, where I can use the oil, for example, here to create more shadow and contrast, not in every place, just in one side. Also, let me use this color, for example, for the mantlet, but in that place, not inside, but in the other side. Probably we can make some shadow here around this periscope only, not in all periscope or horizontal details, only in some areas will be more than enough. Okay, and maybe here, just a little, just to show you like an example. But you can be more creative and you can do that in other places. While it is drying, I can use other different color, for example, the rust color for other areas. For example, right here or here. So what we are doing with that, just making more variety of colors, more contrast, and more interesting, definitely. Also, this allows us to unify some different styles or chipping that probably we don't like too much. So it can unify, for example, here I don't like too much that area, so I can paint a bit and I will blend it later. Also, we can make a little of rust, streaking rust. For example, like this, or something here. We will blend it later, okay? Just I am painting right now. Over the numbers. And finally, we will use the last color that I like for rust, that is the ochre, to make another sensations, another highlights in some places. For example, here, just a bit, maybe here. And in this commander hatch, also a bit in only one side, not in both sides, only in one side will be more than enough. Okay, it's okay, more or less. I think that you understand what I try to explain you with this. And now it's time for blending. We can use any other old brush. For example, I have this one. I will use odorless thinner, and it's time for blending. So observe how I place the brush in relation with the paint, with the color. So the top of the brush must point to the more intensity of the color, to the deeper areas. That is the correct way to blend any color. Don't use too much thinner, and start blending the darker color first, and later you will go for the others. Always clean the brush before continuing blending. That is very important. Let's go to the back of the turret. As you can see, it's very simple, very easy. If you use the right brush, the right paint, and the right thinner. Oh, too much. I like the oils because you can create a lot of volume with it if you use in the right way. Okay, let's start blending also the rusty color. When the oil is dry, it will be completely matte, which is very important, especially for the rust. For the streaking rust, first blend one side. Like you can see, I am blending first my right side, and then I clean the brush, and now I blend the left side. So we will let more color just in the middle. The same for the ochre. Let me blend also the cupola. Another trick is to turn down the turret, so it's more easy to blend now the line. And we are close to finish our turret. Like you can appreciate, it was very simple, very fast to make something nice in short time. Approximately I used it from 1 to 2 hours to paint this turret, which is not bad for a nice result. Good enough, it's not perfect, of course. We can work much more if we pay more attention and we work the details. Also we can paint the well seams in the turret, but just for a little and fast demonstration, I think that could be more than enough, especially if you want to do something similar for your dioramas. See how I move the turret continually around my hands, just to find a better and more appropriate position for my hands and my brush. So my hand is always in the same place, that you can see here, because obviously I cannot move my hand in all positions, so my hand is over the table and will be more easy for me to work and to blend all colors. There are another way to blend the colors, especially when we have a lot of streaking. Not in that case because it's only 3 lines, but you can use also a flat brush and blend all together in the same direction in case that you have too many lines or you want to go faster, no? But I recommend you the other method that I told you in the other side. One line by one and blending carefully from one side to the other. we'll return to the original brush just to finish those highlights. This is a kind of accumulation of rust. And note one thing, that I am using the very light color in very small quantity and only some details. Even overlapping the previous dry brush that I made in the roof of the turret. So it will help to mix all together and to make it softer. And finally, the color here in the Commander cupola hatch. So what is next in this turret? Even it is almost 90% finished. I will explain you now how to create contrast with the pigments, and with that will be more than enough just to show you this sample from today. The most important is to work with the chipping fluid, with the different colors, work with the shaders. Remember to create the different contrast with different color, more red, more yellow. But the domination of the main color is mainly the very dark rust. Here I will make softer the rust lines. Also, we can use some rust pigments to give another different touches, but this is up to you. You can complicate a lot if you want. But now with the main basic techniques, you can start doing something very interesting. So finally, I have here the Middle East dust. Is just a dust color. I like this color. And we can apply with this brush, this one, or any other, or rounded. It's not important to match the brush that you use, depending also the size of the places where you can apply. Now I will use the tissue paper just to avoid that the dust fall over my table, because sometimes that become very dirty. And where I will apply the pigments, well, one of the areas to create contrast will be around the mantlet. We can apply dry, or we can humidify with thinner if we want more intensity. Also a bit of it here. And another area that could be really interesting, not in every places, but must be or should be around the cupola. Remember the photos that I showed you from Afghanistan, where I showed you a lot of dust around the turret? Well, in that case, I can apply dust mainly in the horizontal surfaces. Okay, so the rest of the excess of dust, just simply do that. Okay, and now using the same brush, you can redirect or recollocate the dust in the necessary areas, trying to remove the excess of dust. Finally, you can use a sponge. I have here several types. I have one that is very thick, another with different shapes. But this one, the remover sponge for washes and pigments, is the one that I recommend you to remove the excess of pigments. You can see the shape of this one, which is very appropriate to work over our model. So just rub the sponge over the areas that must be cleaned, and the dust will be accumulated just in the right places, almost like in the real thing. So this is just an old method to apply the pigments. There are many others. Maybe another video, another year, I will explain you all methods of the pigments, but this is one of them. And use the sponge to clean some areas. Okay? So I think that that's all by now. Of course, you always can apply a bit of metal to make some shiny effects. Let me find 1 second. Maybe I can find here gunmetal. Gunmetal is here. Okay, and we can use this one. Even let me find a rubber brush. This is a rubber brush, also you can find in the ammo catalog. And we will apply the metal gum pigment around or over some edges or parts of our tank where it's typical to see this kind of friction and metal effects in some part of the abandoned tanks. No? So come back to a close-up, and for example, one perfect place is this one. First, just touch a bit the surface and go to another place. For example, here, don't touch more, go to another place. Maybe the hooks. The cupola, some parts of the cupola, and that's all. Maybe the gun barrel just in the middle could be interesting. And now that the brush having the dust, we can start blending by making friction and rubbing the surface more and more to make it softer. And now in the mantelet, if you overdo it too much, you always can remove the excess with a sponge humidified with water, for example. Also, you can use your finger to create the metal effect. Probably if you are living next to an abandoned tank near your home, the lucky guys who can do that, probably you have seen many tanks like this one. I remember my visit to Belgium, where you can find many tanks in many villages or towns. I remember the Panther in Houffalize, I don't know how to pronounce that name of that town, but probably many of you remember that tank, and was one of my first tanks that I saw in my life, in real, one of the first Panthers. And I remember painted with a very ugly camouflage, but it was faded and damaged in every places where you can see, where you was able to see the metal effects like I am doing right now in my turret. So here you have the final model. Of course, one more time, is not completely finished. You should do more details, more chippy, more effects, but Even this could be more than nice, more than enough for any diorama. If you want to place together with Abrams or any other tanks, any other modern tank in any of the modern conflicts, but this will be good enough, especially if you place now in the diorama with some plants or vegetation around, could be fantastic. That's all, my friends. I hope you like it. It was so simple, even if we take time to do all of this. Obviously, you need to let dry and to repeat the process. But you can see that you can pay more or less fast. But I think that it's good to know the different techniques, even some of the new products, like remember the shaders, that is relatively new and you can do many effects with them. But I hope that you like it, and see you in the next video, in the next year, who knows. But thank you and bye bye.